The World Cup of surprises. Whoever saw it coming? Saudi Arabia of all countries beating Argentina in the World Cup in Qatar, and then Japan making a mincemeat of Germany. Surprises. Well, that is a part of the round leather game. It is a game of surprises, and that is what makes it tick. We'll continue our coverage of the World Cup. So much is happening in Qatar, but it's not just in Qatar that things are happening when you talk about sports. Our own National Sports Festival, our own Olympics will be kicking off in a matter of days, and that will be in Asaba. And even in basketball, Oshobo will be bubbling in a matter of days too, with the best of basketball in the country. AZ is going to be a loaded package here on Sportsville today. My colleagues are in-house. Tony Wokoma Obadi, don't ask me why he is not in Qatar yet. He is in the studio. Matthew Okugwe is equally around. You will be hearing from the horse's mouth why Tony is not in Qatar. He said the signals he's getting from a colleague, Dure Hazagbe, is nothing he wants to cope with. All that on the show for you. After this break, when we come back, then we'll begin to fire on all cylinders. Don't go away. It is Sportsville. Qatar and be right there in person. On that note, let me start introducing my colleagues. I'm not working alone in the studio, but I will not start from my immediate right for obvious reasons. Let me start from Matthew Okube. Matthew, welcome to Sportsville.
Yes, feels good to be here. So much making the rounds. Qatar remains the focus. Without the Super Eagles, the World Cup is still giving us plenty to really celebrate, and we are excited following proceedings, and feels good to be back in the studio.
Nice to be back in the studio, and let me say to God be the glory that my colleague and friend Tony Wokoma Abani is not in Qatar. Let's hear from him why he's not there. Tony, welcome to Sportsville. Why are you laughing?
Thank you so much, George, and of course thank you to our esteemed viewers. And at least Matthew said that the World Cup is rolling very well, and indeed it's a World Cup of records. So many things have been happening, and of course the human rights and so many other things. Ban on alcohol, ban on looking too much on women, not even to talk about touching. You know, there are a lot of fears.
Is that why you are not in Qatar? Let's just leave it there. Tony is going to give us more on the World Cup much later on the show. But let's tell you that one thing that FIFA has decided to do at this World Cup, you've seen it, is the fact that there is now elongated extra time. Matthew, unlike those days when you waste all the time in the world and you were expecting just 3 minutes, this time be sure that the referees will add all the minutes.
Absolutely, I think it's a good one on the part of FIFA. Not to forget that the referee association, those saddled with this responsibility, came up and they felt that this is one thing that needs also to be.
Are you happy with the innovation?
I am highly happy, because this also has helped us curb the act of time wasting, where a player will just fall on the ground and be rolling. Roll as much as possible. If it is 20 minutes, the referee
will tell you
that is included. I think it's a good one on the part of FIFA. And let's continue to see policies, ideas, and rules like this that would continue to aid the game and help us do away with antics completely.
One man that believes that one thing that would have been done if they were there would have been Super Eagles. If you give against backdrop of the quality of play, and Daniel Amokachi is not hiding this fact. He said Eagles do not deserve to be at the World Cup because we are seeing the best of football. Matthew,
you want to say we really didn't cover ourselves with plenty of glory when our guys really up to at this point we ought to show Nigerians and also show the rest of Africans that it was more of a sleep why we missed out on the World Cup. But the last game against the Portuguese have once again shown that we truly did not deserve to be at the World Cup. We saw the Ghanaian side against the same Portuguese side that defeated us by 4-0, and they were able to hold their own. If not for that dubious penalty awarded to Cristiano Ronaldo, you want to say the Portuguese would have been able to get something in that one. We truly did deserve to be at the World Cup. 2026, we hope we'll be able to put our house together
beyond that dubious penalty. What brought Inaki Williams down? That would have been a 3-3.
Yes, it would have been a 3-3.
Last minute goal, it would have been.
This also boils down to mentality of the African side. We said this over time. A couple of ex-internationals have spoken on the technicality of African coaches.
He should have taken that ball from
and the mentality of our players who ply their trades in Europe, and at the end of the day you begin to make schoolboy mistakes that cost your team. I think African teams, if we must do well, we must begin to put these little things into perspective.
And Drogba said that much when he said that, yes, why African teams are not doing well is because they have quality players, but the teams are average teams. So for you to do well, you must be quality in individual, and you must have quality as a team. Tony?
Yes, absolutely. I think the problem with African players has always been that of big manism. There is so much, raising of shoulders, what we call in Nigeria, buga, when it comes to African players. Just for the fact that they earn fantastically abroad, they do not bring themselves, to bear with other players. There is always this superiority and inferiority complex, trying to check their other players. There must be bonding, and then discipline. That's just the main key word, once it comes to African players.
We saw Senegal come to the party eventually when they defeated Qatar by 3-1, and that was after Ghana had broken the goal drought. And still talking about the World Cup, let's tell you that for Germans, they lost their first game, maybe because they covered their mouth, and then they covered the way they should have scored. Matthew?
Politics for me has no place in football, and I think FIFA has said that over and over again.
That if you come to the World Cup to concentrate on the game.
Go to the World Cup, concentrate on playing football. The Japanese felt that their business definitely would be on the pitch of play, while the Germans felt they needed to make some statements. They covered their face, and they covered their face after the game as a result of losing to a side like Japan. I feel this World Cup for me, some teams who had majorly focused on the policy side, we have a message. Let's focus on football and ensure that teams do well at the end of the day. For the Germans, I think it's just a lesson. It's absolutely
and interestingly, Matthew, the Germans, their aircraft were not even allowed to land in Qatar when they were coming. They had to go and land in Oman because they carried a logo that had to do with human rights, which the Qataris did not like. Well, we just hope that teams will concentrate on the game, but the Japanese are not concentrating not just on the game, they are equally concentrating in getting a clean environment. Tony, what do you make out of that? Cleaning up the stadium after the game against Germany.
I think that has been the discipline of Japanese. I remember when I was in Tokyo, almost everything, they had so much respect, so much humility. They respect one another, not just Japanese respect to Japanese, they respect humanity. In everything they do, they always put a lot of consideration to others. That's exactly why in every stadium you see Japanese, wherever they sit, they must always do a thorough cleanup when they are leaving. And that's, to me, has brought, a focal point to the World Cup for people to take away. Not just about talking about human rights. If you do not respect others, I think you're violating, another person's, human rights more than every other thing. I think the Japanese have taught the world a lesson.
And I'm even inculcating that lesson. As I speak to you, I have cleaned up the studio even before we started this program. I think we can confirm that to you. One thing I want to mention, Tony, a quick one is this. If you look at this World Cup, it's all about a mixture of races and all that. Look at the Canadian team. Adekugbe, one Nigerian, somewhere playing for Canada. George Weah's son scoring for USA. And then Okafor and Mboli playing for Switzerland. What do you make out of that, Tony?
I see we are in a global village. As in, you see the way the world is mixing up. That's why we're just saying, and of course FIFA has emphasized it over and over again, no racism. In everything, we are one. So wherever you see, and that's exactly what all these other countries are demonstrating. It's a lesson to Nigeria, so that wherever you are, we are one. No matter your color, no matter your eyes and whatever it is, there is only one human being, and that is what we are.
I agree with you, Tony. There is one human being, and we are sure the world is saying that in Qatar. Let's take a break now. When we come back, we'll be taking you back to Qatar live, where a colleague of ours, Duro Ihazagbe, is waiting to share his thoughts with us. I hope you enjoy Sports View. Welcome back. We're still talking about Qatar 2022 World Cup and all that is happening there. Let's take you now straight to Qatar, where we're talking to Duro Ihazagbe, one of the top sports journalists in Nigeria. Duro is standing by to share his thoughts with us now. Let's hope he's okay. We are good to go with him. Hello, Duro. How are you doing? How is Qatar?
My pleasure.
Okay, let's start by asking you this. Is the World Cup, is Eagles being missed out there in Qatar? Are they missing the Eagles?
For me, I think it's not really a good experience having witnessed last 3 World Cup without any stress. Nigerians actually look forward to having Super Eagles to play at this edition, but unfortunately, we also what happened in Abuja when the Ghanaians denied us. So, well, of course, we are here. The Nigerians are here. 2 of us are here covering the game. 2 are here who are watching. But for me, I think it's really a sad experience having this first World Cup in the Middle East without the Nigerian Super Eagles.
Duro, let's now ask you this. What stands out for you as far as this World Cup is concerned?
I want to tell you that what the facilities the Qataris have offered can match any other you can think of anywhere around the world. The 8 stadia they provided are among the very best I've seen. This is my 4th World Cup. I've been around the world, I've seen good facilities. What the Qataris have offered are among the very best we have in the world at the moment. And the hotels, the metro, the transportation, for me, they are among the very best you can think of. They have actually spent good money, and the result, we can see the result for the money they have spent. Even the Europeans are admitting here now that what they are seeing on ground here are as good as what any of the developed countries can provide. Or this, I can tell you that the Qataris have surpassed the expectation of so many. So for me, what they have done is much bigger than what others have done in the past. So they have raised the bar. They have ensured that the next goalpost of the World Cup, if it's unable to match this, questions will be asked about those who campaigned against Qatar when they bidded and won, and people were against the fact that why do we have to bring the World Cup here for teams to play? Because they have done so marvelously well that at the end of this competition, the whole world is going to applaud what they have done. Of course, there are a few issues that have to do with orientation of people, like those who have other issues that have to do with. Let's not go to this issue. Let's not go there.
I know you are going to talk about the infrastructure. That is what has made this World Cup in Qatar tick. Fantastic stadium they have everywhere. But come to look at it, Qatar, just like Nigeria, is an oil-rich country. Seeing that there is a big difference, as a Nigerian, how do you feel seeing that Qatar is top-notch when it comes to infrastructure, and you cannot say of the same thing when it comes to your country, Nigeria?
I feel very ashamed coming from Nigeria that have the same oil and gas like Qatar. We have all seen what they have done with their own money, magnificent structures all over the place, good facilities for their citizens and people to enjoy. We have seen how they have provided all basic amenities that make life go round simply because of the oil. But unfortunately, where we come from, few individuals are selling the oil and putting the money in their pockets, while the general one that goes to the national account, we don't even know what we are doing with it. That is the gospel truth. For me, I feel ashamed that I am coming from an oil-producing nation to come to this place to see what they have done with their oil money. For me, I think it is time for our elders, our leaders to have a rethink, our politicians to think about what we are doing in that country, because when Nigerians come to places like this and see what oil money has done, it is enough for us back home to feel shortchanged by our leaders.
Thank you, Duro, for sharing your thoughts with us. We really appreciate this, and I wish you stay very, very safe and respect all the laws of the land as you cover the World Cup.
Pleasure.
Tony, you had Duro there, one of us. What do you make out of what he said?
No, I think Duro has just given what is on ground, and indeed, from snippets that we see on television, I think that Qatar, there are a lot of things that are happening in Qatar. Duro, remember, is a veteran, and perhaps I think this should also be his 5th World Cup. And there are a lot of things, you just talked about, the infrastructure and then almost every other thing. Qatar has really been very fantastic.
Tony, you may not be in Qatar. I know you have other things to tell us.
George, yes, I must say that, we continue with our usual way of just x-raying so many things that are happening in Qatar. And George, I will tell you that the much maligned, much criticized Qatar World Cup is churning out lots and lots of records. The other day we just saw Cristiano Ronaldo's record, and in doing that, in Portugal's 3-2 win over Ghana, Cristiano Ronaldo became the first ever player to score a goal in 5 different World Cups, scoring a penalty that so many people, turned out to say that, it was a controversial penalty. But of course, that record stands that Ronaldo has scored in different 5 World Cups. And in total, Ronaldo has scored 8 goals, spread around, 5 World Cups. And that, to me, is a very, very fantastic record. And his record started when he made his debut in 2006 against Iran in the World Cup hosted by Germany. He scored a goal there. And then in 2010, the first time that the World Cup also came to Africa, South Africa to be precise, Ronaldo scored against North Korea. And then going back to 2014, when Brazil hosted the World Cup, Ronaldo also scored against Ghana. And then in 2018, when Russia hosted the World Cup, Ronaldo made history also scoring a hat-trick against Spain. And then another goal he also scored in Morocco. You can always say that Ronaldo is always breaking records. And indeed, another record that we also saw at the Qatar World Cup is George Weah's son, Timothy Weah, who stole the limelight in his 2022 World Cup debut, for United States of America when he rose up to score against Wales. And indeed, we also remember that the President of Liberia, George Oppong Weah, is the only African to have won Ballon d'Or in 1995, but he has never or was never able to play or score in a World Cup. What he couldn't do, his son has done it. And also talking about records, we equally saw Brel Mbole of Cameroon, who was born in Cameroon, but then based in Switzerland, playing and of course scoring. But then in scoring, he refused to celebrate against the country of his birth. And George, I think these are very fantastic records that Qatar is churning out. And at the end of this World Cup, I think the criticisms on Qatar will turn out to be something that history will never ever forget.
Thank you, Tony, for those wonderful booze. You are not in Qatar, but you are giving us the very best, and I hope our viewers are really enjoying it. I hope you are enjoying Sports Day. After this break, we'll come back and give you part 2 of the show. go straight now to talking points, and let's start with the National Sports Festival, which is our own Olympics. It will start in a matter of days, and I don't know how prepared Asaba is for this, because this is the biggest sports festival in Nigeria. Matthew, do you think Asaba is ready? Because we're still talking about construction and all that.
Yes, going by reports, you want to say Delta states seem to be ready to host the rest of the country as far as the National Sports Festival is for 2022. Tinubu Kokowa, who happens to be the co-chairman of the LOC, said all is in place. As at a few days back, they said they were 95% ready to ensure that they have a successful event. But one thing I think might just take the shine off this game is running side by side with the World Cup in
Yes, I was coming to that. Tony, let me ask you this. Matthew has already mentioned it. How do you, even if the infrastructures are ready, facilities, everything is ready, how do you see it? World Cup going on, our own Olympics going on. Even if the facilities are ready, Tony, why don't you do a postponement?
I think the organizers and the hosts are not in any mood, for any postponement. And there has been a lot of insights into this. We talked about, the construction still going on. And to me, I do not think that construction, even at the World Cup, construction is still going on. While the World Cup is being hosted.
That is nothing to
even
worry
in so
about.
many other, big sporting festivals, like the Olympics and the World Cup, construction will always be going on. Not just major construction. There's something that can be corrected. But I think Nigeria is not participating at the World Cup. So many other people. I know that there are so many people that have the affection for the World Cup. But I also know that there are so many Nigerians that would prefer to go to the sports festival. People are not happy that the Super Eagles did not qualify for the World Cup. Because of that, they can also go there and enjoy, watching Nigerians doing what they know how to do best in athletics.
Beyond even the sports festival, like we told you, basketball action will be coming up in Oshobo, Division 2 playoff. Basketball, they are not equally giving a damn. They want to see action, even in that game of donkey. Matthew.
Yes, it is good to know that the game of basketball is gradually coming alive in our nation after the whole issue around the NBBF, we banning ourselves from the FIBA Women's World Cup. It is good to know that league basketball is gradually from the Savannah to the...
We saw the one in Lagos.
We saw the one in Lagos, all the conferences. Let's just allow these young athletes, these young basketballers to have a ground where they can harness their talent and become future stars. For me, I'm happy about this. It is absolutely the way to go. And I think the NBBF and also the state basketball associations need all the support they can get at this time.
They need all the support they can get at this time. I'm talking about getting support and delivering. Insurance did that with the arsenal of Nigerian football. They've gotten all the massive support from the state government, and this time they are in the Premiership, and they won the Super 4 in Yenagoa just last week. And that cup has been presented to Governor Osbc. Tony, talk about insurance getting it right.
George, I think that anybody who works will always have a glory, go to him. And we give it to, the Osbc-led administration in Edo State. They have done wonderfully well in terms of support, in terms of financial support, and in terms of moral support, especially the deputy governor who is in charge of sports in Edo State. He has demonstrated beyond reasonable doubt, that he is a keen follower. And of course, the first deputy governor to play in the Nigerian League. I think that Bendel Insurance deserved all they got, and indeed bringing them back, George, to where the big boys play is exactly what so many people, so many fans have been craving for.
Gentlemen, that's the show, and I will thank you so very much for being part of it, and I hope that the World Cup will continue to give us all the excitement, and our sports festival in Asaba will locally give us what Nigerians truly deserve. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye and God bless.
Kérésìmesì ọdún ayọ̀. Kò sí àní-àní pé afẹ́fẹ́ ọdún kérésìmesì ti ń pẹ́ lọ́tún lọ́sì bọ́dún kérésìmesì ṣe ń súnmọ́ ìgbìmọ̀ aláṣẹ àtàwọn òṣìṣẹ́ iléeṣẹ́ osbc ń dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ ọlọ́run fún àánú àti ìpamọ́ rẹ̀ látẹ̀sí bí a ṣe wá ń dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ ọlọ́run bẹ́ẹ̀ la mọ rírì ẹ̀yin olólùfẹ́ iléeṣẹ́ yìí tẹ̀ ń gbọ́ wa tẹ̀ ń wò wá tẹ̀kùn ṣonígbàwó ètò kan tàbó ní ìlọ́dọ̀ wa àwọn ń fi àsìkò yìí ran yín létí pé ìgbìmọ̀ tí iléeṣẹ́ osbc gbé kalẹ̀ fọdún kérésìmesì àtọdún tuntun ti ṣàgbékalẹ̀ onírú ètò fọdún kérésìmesì àtọdún tuntun bíi pàtàkì bíi jésù ọ̀rọ̀ ìyànjú ọdún kérésìmesì àfihàn bàbá kérésìmesì àpèjọ ọdún kérésìmesì àìsàn ọdún kérésìmesì àkànṣe ètò fáwọn èwe ìsìn ìdúpẹ́ ọdún àtàwọn ètò míì bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ́wọ́ tí kò gúnpa àwa àrùn àwọn iléeṣẹ́ ìjọba lájọ ilé ẹ̀kọ́ ilé ìjọsìn àti olóríjorí láti wá aṣọ onígbàwọ́ àwọn ètò wa gbogbo lórí rédíò wa 104.5 FM ilé àwíyé òkè bálẹ̀ òṣogbo osbc tv lórí star times 113 àti free tv 50.